It's now my great pleasure to introduce George Whitesides. George, like Loretta, is a founding member of the Mars Society back in 1998. He first came to widespread note when he became a executive director of the National Space Society in 2004. That society was dying at that time. The convention in 2003 had like 60 people attending, and he turned that around completely to conventions with thousands of people. And then in 2007, he married Princess Leia. And then in 2008, when Obama was elected, he became chief of staff of NASA and was chief of staff at NASA in 2009 when they implemented Griffin's decision to reverse the previous administrator's decision to abandon the Hubble Space Telescope and saved it. In 2010, he became head of Virgin Galactic and basically built that company. We're going to hear a lot about that. But actually, I want to come back to the first time I met George, which was at the founding convention of the Mars Society. And he gave a paper. I saw his paper, and it was called something like Gen X needs a cause, and that needs to be humans to Mars. And well, not all of Gen X took up that cry, but some of it did. And members include Elon Musk is an Xer, as is Bridenstine, as is George. And so hats off, Gen X. And without further ado, let's hear from George.
Thanks, Bob. That is terrific. Yeah, gosh, that was a terrific conference. And you know, I think you look back, and that was 1998, right? And you know, I think we should all be really grateful to you, Bob, for you know, the Mars community is a community, but you really served a catalytic moment and have done so much. But I don't want to be boring and just talk about Bob. We can all talk about Bob forever, and we probably would. If we were all together, we could talk about Bob and whatever. But I have some stuff that I want to tell you about today. Let me see if I can adjust my light here. It's totally blinding. I'm just going to go like that. So it's great to be with everybody today, and it's a shame that we can't be here in person. But nonetheless, I want to tell you a bit about Virgin Galactic. So I'll do that. But I also wanted to do something a little bit different this time, because I've given a bunch of Mars Society conferences, Mars talks, and I wanted to tell you about something that I've been learning a lot about recently, which is a story of historical exploration, which I will not get into right now because I'll leave you hanging for a few minutes, but it's something that I find absolutely fascinating that has certain parallels to space. And so in the second part of my talk, I'll talk about that. But why don't we talk about Galactic a bit at the start? And before I begin, I just wanted to make sure I shared something with you, which is that Virgin Galactic and TSC are hiring. And so folks who are looking for new opportunities, exciting opportunities in space, should look at our website and apply. We've got some really exciting stuff going on. And if that's something that interests you, then you should go online and apply, and maybe we'll be able to make a connection. We're hiring in both California and New Mexico. If you want to build and develop, operate spaceships, then that's probably more the California operation. If you, build and manufacture spaceships, that's California. And if you want to operate spaceships, that's probably more New Mexico. But there's good interplay and interconnection between both locations. So don't let that be an issue. And then, of course, in the time of COVID, since many of us are working remotely, it may not matter where you are. So anyway, just a plug to for all the great space people out there. If you're interested in a new opportunity, please consider Virgin Galactic. I also wanted to note just up front that we are now a public company, which is terrific in many respects, but it does offer certain restrictions, and we are in our blackout period in advance of our quarterly earnings call. So I can't say too much new about the company today, but hopefully there are some folks on the line that haven't heard everything that I'm going to say, and and that'll be new for them and hopefully interesting, exciting, and I'll probably also restrict the ability for me to take too many questions. But all that said, I'm tremendously proud of the team members who are working hard as we work to open space together, and it's an honor to work alongside such talented and dedicated people. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen, and I will talk to you a bit about Galactic to start. Okay, does that look okay? Hopefully.
Yep, looking good, George.
So, you know, for those of you who haven't heard the story, which is probably few people, Virgin Galactic was founded around really the success of this vehicle, which was Spaceship One. This is a great picture taken after Brian Binney won the X Prize in 2004. You can see over on the left there, Richard Branson, Burt Rutan, and Paul Allen. And it was a really great moment in human space flight. You know, as I think back over the last, you know, really 15 or 20 years since the founding convention of the Mars Society and Dennis Tito's flight, and you know, the founding of Virgin Galactic and SpaceX and Blue and all the other companies that have come since then, I think we should be really proud and excited about, you know, what has happened in those 20 years. You know, the fact that the US has developed 4 or potentially eventually 5 vehicles capable of human spaceflight between suborbital and orbital. We made tremendous progress in reusable launch vehicle technology in those 20 years, with 3 of those vehicles having already sent humans to space. For those of you counting at home, that's Spaceship One, Spaceship Two, and Crew Dragon. You know, we now have dozens of new satellite companies, many with satellites in space today, performing all manner of services, including even robotic servicing of commercial satellites in orbit, which is something that people talked about for many years, and now that's actually starting to happen. And then, you know, in terms of science, the fact that we've really found conclusive evidence of water ice and Mars and Moon, and perhaps liquid water on Mars deep underground are really amazing things. And I think, you know, part of the public policy initiatives that have happened, in particular the broad bipartisan consensus that smart partnerships between the government and commercial companies, that those partnerships can generate great innovation and enable the country to accomplish great things. I think that, you know, we have made great progress over the past 20 odd years, and I am tremendously excited about the future for the next 20 years, because I think that it's going to be filled with, you know, a renaissance in human spaceflight, and hopefully lead us to a great many destinations in our solar system. Okay, so let's see. So that was the X Prize, and then of course this is Spaceship Two, which many of you are familiar with. It's basically a rocket plane that is designed to take people on a suborbital journey into space. This is a shot of it over California, and then and here's Spaceport America, and we've been making tremendous progress on this. We've now essentially activated the spaceport, and we have you know, many people down in the spaceport, and we've made great progress on the fit out of the spaceport, and we're flying flights out of the spaceport now. And so all that is really quite exciting. We have, you know, here's a nice picture of the first level, and I think the experience that our customers are going to get as they prepare to fly to space will be really just marvelous and incredible. And you know, for someone who's been working in this field, like many of us have for many years, it's wonderful to see, you know, the physical manifestations of that progress, not just on the vehicle side, but on all the ground experience and all that starting to take shape is really exciting. Of course, we've flown a few flights to space. This is a nice shot taken from the carrier aircraft as Spaceship Two ascends. This is a flight in, I believe 2019, a nice shot of our planet from the left boom cam of Spaceship Two. And what an experience that will be. And that is something that, you know, as Loretta said, and as others have said, is what really inspires us, is to share that perspective you know, dozens and then hundreds and then thousands of people over the coming years. And the impact I think that experience will have on those people will be profound. And our hope is that the experience will also be shared with many more people on planet Earth, and that will have a big impact. I think it will have a big impact in terms of inspiration. I think it will have an impact on, you know, our relationship with our home planet, and hopefully it will also have an impact on, you know, our nation and other people's nations' desire to do ambitious space exploration beyond planet Earth. And that's sort of what I mean about this renaissance in human exploration, I think, and human space flight that I see coming. I think that, you know, having many people going into space will hopefully generate a desire to do more beyond just Earth. And so we'll see, but I am quite enthusiastic and optimistic about that. This is a really wonderful picture of our chief astronaut instructor, Beth Moses, as she experienced space for the first time. So Beth, as some of you may know, worked at and for NASA for many years, and always wanted to go to space. She was not an astronaut. She worked on various programs, in particular the International Space Station program, but she always wanted to go to space. And this shot, which captures her reaction at seeing planet Earth in space for the first time, I think is just really wonderful and represents, you know, what we hope it will be, you know. And I think her flight, which validated many of the basic parts of our experience that we hope to share, and validated it brilliantly in terms of safety and enjoyment and visibility and all kinds of things, will be a really terrific precursor to what is to come for our commercial customers. Here's just a shot out the front of the spaceship looking down at planet Earth, which is amazing. And yeah, and so that planetary perspective is something that has always motivated me. As I've said in the past, I think Spaceship Earth is really our most incredible spaceship because it's maintained, you know, life autonomously essentially for many billions of years. And anybody who knows modern life support knows that that's a pretty hard thing to do. So as we explore outwards, we need to take care of our home planet. And I am an optimist. I think that we'll be able to do that, but having the perspective of space, I think, is crucial to that. In late 2019, we went public on the New York Stock Exchange. This is a nice picture from that day, and you know, it was something that we had always thought about, and to achieve that goal is a terrific thing, and hopefully it accrues benefit to other space companies in different ways as the market develops, and having certainly seeing all the private capital and public capital that's flowing into space companies is can be an accelerant for progress in space flight, and you know, certainly that's another thing that's changed dramatically over the past 20 years. We're building not just, you know, we don't just have our first spaceship, which is Spaceship Unity, our first, but building additional spaceships. This is a picture that's already been released, but you can see the next spaceship, which is further along now. You know, just a word about our customers. You know, we're tremendously grateful for our hundreds of customers. They're incredible people, and you know, I always say this during talks, if somebody is, you know, thinking about going to space, I encourage people to get in touch, and you know, we definitely have Mars Society members who are going to be flying, which is terrific, and they're a great group of people who are, you know, successful, but also who have that gleam in their eye and who want to drive forward, you know, progress of humans in space, which is really terrific. We also have unveiled some of our flight suits, which you see here with Richard is in the official flight suit there, and then a collection of garments from our partners at Under Armour, which are going to be really terrific and make people, I think, feel very comfortable as they go through their space flight experience. And this is just a nice shot, a rendering of the interior of the cabin that we released over the summer. we've done some great design work with our internal team and also with external partners like Seymour Powell, and really thought through the cabin in a very deep way. And there are cameras everywhere to capture your experience, and also have these seats that will sort of reconfigure out of the way so that people have a lot of room for their weightless floating, and even have I think the world's the biggest space mirror is roughly the size of the Hubble telescope mirror. Obviously, the Hubble telescope mirror is much more expensive, but it'll be a nice way for people to see themselves in space during their flight, which will be a fun thing to have. Okay, so that's Galactic, and let's see. Let me just do a quick check on time here. Okay, so I've got a bit of time more, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk to you about something that may seem sort of like it's coming from left field, but it's something that I've become really interested in, and perhaps particularly appropriate this week. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the original exploration of the Pacific. And you're going to say, well, this is the Mars Society conference. Why are we talking about the exploration of the Pacific? Well, I think that the tale of the exploration of the Pacific by the folks who did it in the first place, which were, let's call, broadly speaking, the Polynesian explorers of the Pacific, is an incredible tale of anthropology and archaeology that's told through anthropology and archaeology. And I think it has some interesting lessons for the human expansion into the solar system. So just stay with me, and I'll tell you what I have learned. And I want to just state up front, I'm by no means an expert in this subject whatsoever, but I have been reading up on it, and I think it's just an incredible tale. And for those of you who haven't heard, what the latest thinking is from the academic researchers on this, I think you're going to be amazed. And I thought it was sort of particularly appropriate, given that we've been honoring Indigenous peoples over the course of the last week and month, to talk a little bit about this, because, of course, humans are an exploring species, right? And we've been exploring since we, developed as a modern species about 200,000 years ago in Africa. And this part of the story of human exploration of our home planet is truly one of the most amazing stories of human exploration. And it's inspiring to me, and it sort of inspires me about the future of what our future in space holds, because what they did, 50,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, with the technologies that they had at the time, is absolutely mind-blowing. And so I just, before I begin, I'd like to recommend two books to you. One is called The Wayfinders by Wade Davis, if anybody's interested in this subject. And then the other one's called On the Road of the Winds by Patrick Vinton Kirch. And they're both really great books. And I'll read a couple of sections from both of these books. And I've got 10 minutes to share what is something that people have written, dozens of books on. And so I'm just going to touch on a couple of really neat points. But I wanted to just start with this. So during the Pleistocene, which is sort of this long period before the current geological period, this was sort of the arrangement of, let's say, Australasia. And so you had lower sea levels because of the massive ice sheets in the northern and southern poles, and latitudes, higher latitudes. And so the Australia was actually connected to New Guinea and to Tasmania. And you saw you see the big broad reach of South Asia reaching down, and then the sea of what they called Wallacea. I don't know any of these terms, to be honest, and they called that sort of broader geographic region of Australia to be Sahul. And so here's the key point. The key point, and I'm quoting here, is that even when the oceans were at their lowest levels, there were always significant open water gaps between the islands of Wallacea, and therefore the arrival of humans into Sahul necessitated open water transport. And this was also the case with the expansion of humans beyond New Guinea into the archipelagos of New Oceania. And herein lies one of the most exciting and intriguing aspects of Pacific prehistory. We're likely dealing with the earliest purposive voyaging in the history of humankind. So across that water gap, people must have sailed, and this was sort of order of magnitude 50,000 years ago. And what's interesting is that once that crossing was made, and we have evidence of sort of 47,000 or more years ago, our ancestors rapidly spread into the rest of that subcontinent, and they occupied not just the western parts near the likely corridors of human entree, but all over this region, from the north to the south to Tasmania, to New Ireland, which is up near New Guinea. And the early modern humans were able to move into and inhabit a remarkable range of habitats, from the tundra-like high latitudes of Tasmania through the deserts of Australia to the humid tropical forests of New Guinea and the Bismarcks. And so imagine that once that pathway or that initial barrier had been crossed, humans immediately spread out across a wide range of environments. Sort of an interesting thing to think about as we think about our initial moves out of low Earth orbit. So that was about 2,500 generations distant, and then we move forward, sort of this expansion into the Bismarcks, which was absolutely incredible. Here's another quote for you. The settlement of Manaus, which is up there in the north. The settlement of Manaus may represent a real threshold in voyaging ability, as it is the only island settled in the Pleistocene beyond the range of one-way intervisibility. Voyaging to Manaus involved a blind crossing of some 60 to 90 kilometers in a 200 to 230 kilometer voyage. So you were out there in the middle of the sea without knowing, that there was something out there, or without knowing exactly where that thing was, in this very primitive boat, when no land would have been visible, whether coming from the north coast or to the south. Those would have been tense hours or days on board the first voyage, and the name of the Pleistocene Columbus who led this crew will never be known. And sometimes I think about that with our space explorations, that we're doing things, that we're paying it forward, and some of our names will never be known, but they will be making a difference in terms of human exploration and expansion into the universe. And really fascinating to think about, that these explorers were doing these amazing journeys 40,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, as they explored this area. And so I just want to, comment on one other thing. So basically, once they made it over to New Guinea, Homo sapiens started exploring through these island chains, New Britain and the Bismarcks, and down to Buka Island. And there's a really great phrase, which is, this is all in the realm of theory, but there's a researcher named Irwin who views this region extending around that Bismarck archipelago through the main Solomon Islands as a great voyaging nursery, sheltered from the tropical cyclone belts that lie to the north and south, and one in which seasonal and predictable changes in wind and current direction encouraged early voyagers to experiment with round-trip expeditions exploring and exploiting these mostly intervisible islands. So imagine that, tens of thousands of years ago, humans were learning how to explore in the sea through these islands that were close to New Guinea, and teaching themselves the tools of how to explore. And you can sort of think about how humans now are teaching ourselves the tools of how do we explore in interplanetary space. And we're just beginning this journey, and we sort of went through one journey as we explored the Earth, and now we're beginning a new journey. So then we sort of fast forward, so the exploration of yep, no problem. The exploration of this area, started off in this area, and then went shot down through Vanuatu and New Caledonia and Fiji, and these were really incredible journeys of exploration. When they were crossing thousands of kilometers of ocean, and over the course of just a few generations, and just a terrific, incredible time. And then just this sort of the final phase was this expansion over the last few thousand years, as essentially all of the islands of the Pacific were explored up to Hawaii and down to New Zealand and across to many other islands. And so you sort of think about, you know, this small group of seafarers explored an ocean realm stretching across 4,500 kilometers during the course of just 10 to 15 successive human generations, 20 years each. And this author says, without a doubt, the Lapita colonization of remote Oceania ranks as one of the great sagas of human prehistory. And this was just 25 generations distant. And so to close it up, you know, we've now gone about 2.5 generations away from this initial voyage across the sea from Earth to the moon. And we've got a big ocean in front of us, you know, and a lot of islands to explore. And, you know, what an amazing thing that we're all doing. And the exploration of the moon and the exploration of Mars are just the first steps in what will be, you know, a long journey. And so all of you are a part of that. And you're at an amazing moment when that journey starts, sort of like the first explorers across those small sea journeys 50,000, 40,000 years ago. So just for fun, I thought I'd share that with you as a new thing. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. I know many of you share that basic human excitement around exploration and the importance that we all feel about moving forward in human exploration and the opportunity we have now, thanks to good policy and good technology and amazing humans who are dedicating their lives to this great adventure of exploration. So I think I probably don't have time for questions today, but I hope that has summarized sort of recent progress at Virgin Galactic and also maybe given you a little bit of inspiration about the amazing adventure that we're all together a part of. So thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody. And I'm going to sign off. Thanks so much.
Thank you, George. Thank you for the paleontological history. That was fascinating.